Hi Aquarius, and welcome to your horoscope for 2024. Thanks for joining me. We have something really significant happening on the 21st of January 2024. It's the end of one era and the beginning of a new one. We have Pluto, the planet of transformation and change, death and rebirth. It leaves the sign of Capricorn and it goes into your sign of Aquarius. So this, I can't really overstate this. It really is a profound shift. It's like a change in human consciousness. And I'll tell you why I think that in a moment. First of all, Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008. Capricorn is an earth sign and it's the sign of the worker. And the one thing you can rely on with Pluto is that things are going to continually change. If you think back to what was happening in 2008, we had the credit crunch. So people's savings and mortgages that they'd banked on, literally, when poof and imploded. It was a really difficult time, and it stayed in Capricorn through the 2010s up until this point here in 2023. And if you even think back over the last 3 years, I think we've all seen major changes in how people work, what their daily routine is like, what they can kind of expect to get out of the work that they're doing. And it's been a challenge. What's also been interesting is how the role of governments and institutions have loomed so largely, and they've had such a big impact on everyday people's lives. And it hasn't been rebellion and chaos. It's been a lot of, okay, let's get through this and let's kind of get in line and behave and operate the way we usually would and do our best here. So it's kind of been a time of, yes, okay, I'm going to try and follow the instructions. I'm not going to think for myself. I'm certainly not going to step outside of the norm. And, you know, there have even been serious consequences for behaving kind of freely and in a way that is unblemished by concern and obligations and duties, which suddenly weren't tolerated anymore. So things became a lot stricter. They seemed a lot more rigid. And this is a really good move here for you guys, particularly because it's going into your sign. So you as an Aquarius, you're the sign of the water bearer, which is interesting because you're an air sign, but it's associated with the water bearer because it's about detoxing the negative and cleansing and letting go of the past, and then making space for new ideas to come in. And Aquarius is so associated with the teacher and the humanitarian. These are good ideas that are designed to help yourself and other people. So I just want to give you some keywords. So you as an Aquarius, you value ideas and freedom and radical new ideas, and your sign rules astrology and technology. So expect some major advances in both those areas. It can be idealistic, and you guys can be, and tell me if you disagree with this, but you're really the source of all wonderful inspiration and ideas and thinking really outside of the box and being super unconventional. But sometimes I think the thing to watch out for with Aquarius is that those ideas aren't actioned and aren't put into practice. So it's all of this great content that is then left at the side and gathers dust in the shelf and is never really worked with. So that's what I would say is going to change kind of particularly with this shift. And what we're not going to miss and what you won't miss is this sense of I have to follow the rules. I'm a robot, you know, I'm part of this like thing. And you get to breathe a sigh of relief, and it's kind of like I have more freedom to think for myself, to pursue things that genuinely interest me, and to operate in ways which aren't part of the mainstream, but I value and I think that are important and effective. And I have the time and space to kind of pursue those things and educate myself and to broaden my mindset and to make life feel bigger and more interesting and more fun. So I mentioned that for the most part, this shift lasts until 2044. And the reason I said that is Pluto does one more return. It retrogrades one more time into Capricorn. And it does that on the 2nd of September 2024 until the 19th of November 2024. So Pluto, for you guys specifically, it hovers over your ascendant. So it's in the 12th house of spirituality and spiritual strength when it's in Capricorn. And then it moves into your first house of self in Aquarius. So what I was concerned about is that it could possibly be too much of a good thing, and that you'd be so flooded with ideas that it would be difficult to get things done. But now that I'm looking at it, with Pluto in Capricorn in your 12th, that's kind of getting an intuitive message and getting ideas from the ether and putting them into a practice in a way that may seem somewhat stiff. So I've got all these great ideas, but I can't run with them the way I usually would because I have all these rules to follow, right? So when it shifts into Aquarius on the 21st of January, Pluto goes into your house of self. Pluto, the one thing you can rely on is that it's never going to settle and be solid and reliable. It's always changing, so it amplifies the amount of ideas that are coming through. But at the same time, on the moment of it shifting, there's still a lot of Capricorn floating around in your 12th house, and you have Jupiter, the lucky planet, and your ruler, Aquarius, in Taurus. And that's the crux, really, because Uranus is the miraculous and the unexpected, and it's all these fabulous ideas that exist in their own little realm. But in Taurus, it's your ability to action them and to put them into practice. So expect to be inspired, to have a huge sense of relief and freedom, and like a scientist who's able to get back to work, or an inventor who's able to start inventing again. So it's like, oh, the oppression and the pressure and the rigidity and the rules and the blocks, they're easing away. The other thing that's interesting is on the 1st of January 2024, we have Mercury, the communication planet, going direct. So I think that's somewhat telling because it's the first day of the new year. And Mercury going direct allows you to communicate more effectively. There's less room for error. And it's been in retrograde since the 12th of December 2023. And I think it's profound that it goes direct on this first day of the new year, and then 20 days later we have Pluto making this huge, epic, life-changing, dynamic of the world changing kind of shift. So I think it's an important and a good idea for you to explore your own inspirations, and particularly ideas which may seem impractical or nonsensical even. And that's what we're going to notice over the next 20 years, that ideas which seemed ludicrous and completely impractical, and if the inventor of this idea, which then gets accepted, shared that with the general public, they would be laughed at. So we're going to see major changes in terms of the way we communicate, and they're going to be major new inventions and really things, shifting and developing in a way that can't be anticipated because your sign, remember, is ruled by Uranus, so you can't really plan ahead for this, but things certainly are going to open up. So you as an Aquarius, if you have your pulse on kind of technology or digital kind of information that exists in the ether or online, and you really have a knack for working with that, and you have a sense of, I can kind of predict where this is going, it might be a good idea for you to jump on certain ideas that other people have, and even to, if this is possible, if you have the capacity to invest in certain things that you think are going to grow and take off, that's something I would really suggest you do. Because Uranus is next to Jupiter, the lucky planet. They're both in Taurus. Plus, with all this Pluto in Aquarius energy in your first house, you're really going to be able to tap into things which other people will dismiss out of hand as being impractical. You'll have patience and you'll be able to see the value in those things. So Mercury goes direct. We only have 3 Mercury retrogrades in 2024, unlike the 4 that we usually do. So that also says that communication isn't going to be stifled. The pace is much quicker and you're able to learn much more and contribute much more valuable information. More ideas are going to come through. Things aren't slowing down as much as they usually would. And then we also have Venus, the planet of love and beauty and creativity. That doesn't go retrograde at all in 2024. Whenever Venus goes retrograde, I always say, be careful when starting a new business or a new relationship, because when Venus is in retrograde, your perspective is a little bit off and you start to really warm towards things that under normal circumstances you wouldn't be particularly interested in. So people then often have the experience of starting something new, and a month or two later they look back on it and it's like, what was I doing there? That has totally fizzled out. I have no interest in that whatsoever. What was I doing? That's not something you have to contend with. So even if an idea seems laughable or it's never going to happen, this is just too wild and too out there, those are the kind of things where you're going to shine because you'll have an appreciation for them and you'll be able to identify them before anyone else does. Also, Mars is about drive and desire and motivation, and that only goes retrograde at the end of the year on the 6th of December 2024 until the 23rd of February 2025. So when it comes to confidence and desire to learn new things and to broaden your mindset, that's not going to slow you down until the very end of the year. So this is an opportunity for you to really launch out into the world as such and to expand your circle and what you're exposing yourself to media-wise and information-wise and education-wise. The wheels are going to be turning very, very quickly, and you can make sense of things and come to a conclusion that will then have a huge impact on your situation. So basically what I'm saying is you can see solutions where other people can't and innovations where other people may be stumped. So make the most of that. I want to look at a couple of specific things that stand out to me as well. We've got Uranus, your ruler, going direct on the 27th of January 2024, and it's been in retrograde since the 28th of August 2023. So with the retrogrades, I always look at this in terms of a planet going direct. The energy is expressed in the external environment in the world, and when it's in retrograde, it's kind of an inside job, and the energy is expressed internally. So Uranus goes direct in your fourth house of your roots and what you have a sense of comfort and ease around, and it's in the sign of Taurus. So any new ideas that you've kind of accumulated in January 2024, because it has been in retrograde for the whole month of January, so more ideas, more unusual content. With Taurus, you're able to translate that into something practical. So the idea for a light bulb, let's actually build the light bulb, right? On the 25th of March, we've got a lunar eclipse in Libra. That happens in your 9th house of travel, education, growth, moving, teaching, and broadening your mindset. Libra is another air sign, so it's something that you can easily access. And Libra, I always like to look at as a bridge with a bump in it. So if there have been blocks to you learning something new or delving into a new area that you found interesting, but for whatever reason you couldn't look into it, that's going to open up and become much easier. Travel, and ultimately your life having this sense of more is possible. I have more options than I did before. That's really the case. But it's not just about being an inventor and being productive. This is also just learning things for the fun and for the sake of learning and for feeling like I'm really in my element here. I like to expose myself to new things and I get to do that. I have the time and space to really absorb as much as I want, and that's going to give me a sense of being re-energized. But also what I'm getting is like the sense of limitation is lifted. So it's like anything is possible again. Oh, and that's, I mean, to me, that is a huge relief because things have seemed so, it's almost felt like people have been scrutinizing everyone. It's like someone's been breathing down your neck all the time. Okay, so then on the 8th of April, so 2 weeks later-ish, we have a solar eclipse in Aries, and that again happens in your fourth house of your roots and what you're comfortable with. So often the fourth house and the cusp of it, which is the IC, where you feel you're really grounded and rooted, it often represents things that you really rely on. So a job you've had for many years, or the family, the home, the belief system, the core values. You've got loads of Aries fire energy in there. And it's like, am I going to keep doing everything the way I have? Or am I going to look at what I care about and what I want to create in future? Or am I going to keep things as they are? And the likelihood for you keeping things as they have been so far is very, very slim. With all that fire energy, Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, the ram, which the whole point of it is to get blocks out of the way and to use all of its energy to clear the path. It's going to say, I want to explore new structures, new securities, and find things in life and in the world that make me feel like I'm at home. And because of the Libra stuff in your north, it's very likely that you get motivated to pursue that first and foremost by learning new things, by traveling, by visiting places you've never been before. And ultimately, it's about getting that fire back and saying, I'm passionate. I don't have to kind of hide out and feel safe all the time. I can take risks. And I feel so comfortable and confident in myself that I can pursue new things. So with that said, I don't think you're going to have a huge amount of problems when it comes to your relationships, your most serious relationships. But where there can be some conflict is if someone forbids you to do something. If someone says, absolutely not, we as a unit don't do this. And I know you have this new idea and you're really psyched about it, but no, that is not going to work for you, Aquarius. You've been suppressed long enough. You've had it with being told what to do. So that's something to manage and to look into with a sense of diplomacy and tact. You can get your point across and put a boundary in place and say, well, thank you, but I am doing this, without, overstating the point, which could be an argument or which could be conflict. But fundamentally, I don't see that there's a change in the dynamic of things which you have really relied on for a long time, because you're not picking at those. You're looking at what's out there and what you can add to what you've already got. And that's the impulse to explore and to make life bigger. On the 2nd of May, we've got Pluto starting to retrograde until the 11th of October, and it starts its march back into Capricorn. So it's still in Aquarius and it stays in your first house of self. With it being retrograde, it's an even greater amount of ideas and transforming the way you've seen things in the past and the way you see them now. So you may find that you feel very differently about certain things that you'd stop questioning. You may find that you're really galvanized into action by certain things and that you see injustices where you didn't see anything before. And there are lots of areas of interest. So however this plays out for you, you're certainly not going to be short of ideas. The key thing, again, I would say is, I'm not just going to let this float around. I'm going to do something practical with it and not let this go to waste. On the 26th of May, Jupiter, the lucky planet, goes into Gemini, and that moves into your 5th house of what you love and what you love to do and what you love to work on. And Jupiter is the lucky planet. In Gemini, it really expands your voice, I would say. I mean, technically, I would associate Taurus with the voice and Gemini with communication and getting your point across and problem solving and finding new doorways. But ultimately, you've got a lot of energy between the 4th and the 5th. Uranus and Mercury, so chaos and communication, are in Taurus in your 4th house. So I feel comfortable with new ideas and expressing things that are unconventional. And then Jupiter in Gemini at 1 degree in your 5th house. I love taking these insights and expressing them as loudly as possible and making sure that they reach as many people as possible. So don't stop yourself. Don't censor yourself from exploring new things. I think that's the only thing really that you're not going to put up with in 2024. On the 29th of June, we have Saturn, the planet of structure and security. That goes retrograde until the 15th of November. And then 10 degrees away from it, Neptune, the water planet of dreams and intuition, that goes retrograde until the 7th of December. And both of them go retrograde in your 3rd house of communication. So the energy is going to be accessed from within. And Saturn gives you this real certainty of, it's good and right for me to engage with new information and then to put my stamp on it, see how it can be useful and express it. And Neptune is really the dream. So I've got this piece of information. Maybe it's the final piece of the puzzle for what I'm planning. So who you ought to listen to as such, and I just said the word ought, so it doesn't count. Because that's exactly what I'm telling you not to do, to listen to other people. And I'm digging myself deeper as I'm speaking. Rather than taking instructions from others, from institutions, from things that exist in the world, connect with your higher self from within. That's going to be your professor. That's the best info that you're going to have access to around the June kind of period. And really, that's something that no one can deliver to you. Because again, I think you're somewhat resistant in being taught. You don't want to be lectured. You want to have something arise from within and open up that you can then run with. It's the difference between being a student and innovating the content and teaching it. You're the teacher, you're the innovator here, and you're very committed to that. On the 2nd of July, I mentioned Neptune going retrograde. Then moving over into the 1st of September, we've got your ruler Uranus going retrograde until the 30th of January 2025. So that's the second retrograde of your ruler this year. The first one was in the month of January. It went direct on the 27th. Then it stayed direct now until the 1st of September. And it slows down and it appears to go backwards. It's still in your 4th house of your structures in Taurus. So even more so, you're able to revisit those structures and say, do I want to maintain this? Life as it is, life as it's always been? Or do I want to raise this and build something new? Or do I want to take control of the situation via my new ideas and adapt it so that it suits me? So again, I'm just listening to myself talk, and there is a lot of me in this, because it's almost like you feel you've been caged long enough and now you're not going to tolerate any kind of minimization of you and your ideas, because it's going to feel like a personal insult. Pluto is transformation in Aquarius, your sign. So I'm transforming, okay? If you can't recognize that, then I'm not so interested in listening to your instructions. So you may be a bit touchy when it comes to following the rules and taking instructions, which isn't that comfortable if you're constantly being told off. But in the long term, most ideas and inventions come from individuals, not from students who behave well at school. And again, you may disagree with that, but I don't think that organizations and groups come up with these radical ideas as much as individuals do, because we as individuals have the ability to break the mold and to say enough and I'm different. Institutions don't, because they have to get on with each other. And you have the luxury of not having to get on with people. And again, that said, most people have friends and family and and people who they do want to be considerate towards. So just balance that out a little bit. And again, with that Taurus energy in your 4th, despite all of that self-innovation and focus on growing yourself, I really don't think that it's that combustible when it comes to your most significant relationships. If you disagree, let me know. On the 17th of September, we have another lunar eclipse. This one is in Pisces. And it happens in your 2nd house of money and belongings. And it's in between Saturn in retrograde and Neptune in retrograde. The moon is your feelings. So again, I am listening to my higher self. Thank you very much. I'm being educated by myself. Shh. I feel sorry for all the... who do I feel sorry for? I feel sorry for someone who's going to try and manage you or control you or tell you that you can't. So it makes sense. You're really like at the front of this new movement as such, which is about new ideas. So sometimes you have to ruffle a few feathers to get things to change. So if you want to ruffle feathers, you'll be able to very easily. On the 2nd of October, we have a solar eclipse in Libra, and that happens in your 9th house again. And I'm saying the same thing, which is good because the trends are kind of revealing themselves. And that is my major purpose. My identity is all about expanding my point of view, learning new things, having new experiences and visiting new places, meeting new people and sharing my ideas for something unique to arise. So other people who are open-minded and who think outside the box, who don't control you, you'll get on with that very well and you'll benefit from these brainstorming sessions even. So you'll have a lot of interesting conversations. And then finally, on the 9th of October, we have Jupiter going retrograde until the 4th of February 2025, and that's in your 5th house of what you love, and again at 20 degrees in Gemini. So what do I want to communicate? What do I want to connect with? And how do I want to become a luminary in that area? So what are you really passionate about in terms of ideas? And how can you put that out there to either educate and share the wealth of knowledge? Or how can you open up to find people who are thinking along similar lines, as in let's find a new way of doing things. And by connecting, you can create an institution that then, wow, finds a common goal. But what I said earlier was that it's the individual who comes up with the great ideas. Okay, so it doesn't mean you have to be completely on your own here. You can certainly speak to people who are like-minded. And also it's important to talk to colleagues and people who know your field to fact check you and to kind of make sure this is practical. So I would say, look at what ideas you can come up with on your own and then reach out to other people in order to perfect that idea and to mold it into something practical. Okay, so that's the best way to use that. So the blessing of Jupiter and the good luck of it is that you can kind of really pluck out your own ideas and then you can connect them with others to fine-tune them. Okay, so that's what I get for you here in 2024. I hope it gives you an idea of what you'll be working with. If you would like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on book your reading to audio reading with me. In my personal readings, I also draw up your chart. I take your place of birth, date of birth, and time of birth. If you don't have the time of birth, then please order a chart rectification with me. That's a process where I actually work it out based on 10 or more significant life events that you send me. And that's really helpful because the more accurate the chart, the more accurately I can look at it. If you want any more information, please check out my monthly horoscopes, my weekly horoscopes, and the daily tarot readings. I hope this has been helpful in some way. Have a wonderful 2024. And I really am excited for this start you have into the year because it's going to feel so empowering. And it's like you've broken free. Yeah. So all the best, and I'll speak to you soon.